All right, so we'll call to order the City Council meeting for Richmond City Council, Monday, October 25th. Madam Clerk, on the minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. There can be a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held on October 12th, 2021, and adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting for public hearings held on October 18th.
Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? We'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Any agenda additions or deletions?
None, Your Worship.
Okay, and there's no delegations, so we don't have to go into committee of the whole. So to the consent agenda, I'll read off the highlights. Receipt of committee minutes, the city events program for 2022, the 2022 council and committee meeting schedule, the cycling network plan update, the proposed phase 2 engagement, recommendation to award a contract for the traffic signal system maintenance, upgrading, and installation. Then we have a change order approval for the mattress and upholstered furniture recycling services. Then we have the grant funded flood protection program update and 2021 submissions to the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund. We have a motion to adopt those by general consent. Moved and seconded. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just a couple items that I draw attention to and highlights. I'll be supporting everything on the agenda. On the city events program, Your Worship, I think it's a great start for 2022. I want to highlight in particular the Stevenson Salmon Festival and the Richmond Cherry Blossom Festival. As council members may be aware, and the public may be aware, that 2022 is the 50th anniversary of our twinning with Wakayama. And that was our second sister city. And I know the Wakayama people, in spite of what's happening in the world, they're still looking forward to hopefully doing something in that line, and maybe some of these events can be geared towards that, at least in terms of celebrating that twinning. But the other events I think are extremely important. It gets us moving back on the straight and narrow, if you wish, to where we were vibrant in terms of all the activities we hosted within in the community, and I think it's a good investment to make sure that the citizens are healthy. I think this is I look at it not just an event, but it's a health program to bring people back to the normal. Mental health is just as important as any other health, so I'm very happy to support it. I just want to make a comment. I commend the Public Works Committee in terms of, and a question on the cycling with regard to that report. I thought it was a very good one. Are we using reflectors and separating the cycle lanes in some of the areas, especially where there's fast traffic, and the speed limit in Richmond's 50 km per hour. It's going a little bit faster than the cyclist on the road, and in particular, I'm concerned, with railway, Granville, and those kinds of things. So, are we using reflector separation, and have we considered lowering the traffic speeds where we have bike lanes?
Through Your Worship to Councillor McNulty, yes, we do use delineators. We have a couple of long stretches in the city where we're using them, and a couple more where we are proposing to do them in the near future. And with respect to, I can't remember your second question, Councillor McNulty.
The second question was, have we considered lowering the speed limit where we have bike lanes that may be marked or unmarked?
Through Your Worship to Councillor McNulty, we've considered it as staff. We haven't presented that to council, but we could certainly do something far more formal at the direction of council. Well,
I would let the Public Works Committee look at that. It's something I think we should consider in some of the areas, especially along River Road. And even though there is no specific bike lane, it's a bit of a shoulder. I think for the safety of our folks and some of the areas in East Richmond, I think it's important on it. The question I had, next question I had to staff, Your Worship, was on our diking. what if we don't get the grant for flood protection and what have you? We're putting in, $4 million a year into flood protection, and we're continuing, but what happens if we don't get that grant? Will we adjust our project?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, if we don't get the grant, we will take a look at the capital program. This is for a number of years, so we'll know this year whether or not we will need to adjust funding in the future.
Okay, well, I think it's a good program and keep up the good work on it. I think it's something that we've got to continue to work on, and we will be working on it for the next 50 years as sea levels rise. I think it's important that we make sure that we continue to put resources in it, and at the same time we assure the community that our dikes are safe. We've had 145 years of diking in Richmond, and not only Lulu Island, but let's not forget our sister island, Sea Island, if you wish, or our brother island, that diking around that particular island and the airport is extremely important because it's under our perusal as well. And I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for the mattress and upholstered furniture recycling services. I think it really is a step in the right direction. It's the community has taken the leadership, and I have to say the success of the workshop, you go down there and all of us do, but any one time, I mean, it's just a whole vibrancy of activity and extremely positive. I'm not sure that too many, Your Worship, and I give it back to you, too many communities in Metro Vancouver can brag about their recycling and their work yard 7 days a week, all through the day in business hours, and the amount of stuff that doesn't go to the landfill but gets recycled and reused. Congratulations to all of those in the work yard. So I'll be supporting everything, Your Worship, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, I also will be supporting everything, and
Just bear with us a sec. Okay.
I was hearing
automatically.
Yeah.
When you're speaking.
I was hearing voices in my head. That's not a good thing. So thank you for the reports. Just on the event report, actually, I just wanted to know if staff could comment a little bit on the public consultation that went into that process, because I have a feeling that it was quite extensive from what I saw. And then when you look at the dollars that are being invested, and I use the word invested into events, I'd also like you to comment on just what would be called the return on investment for those dollars, because there have been some studies through Tourism Richmond and other studies as well that actually reflect quite a good return on investment when you look at what happens to local businesses in the community and that type of thing.
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs. Yes, in terms of your first question regarding the engagement process for this report, that's what I understand your first question to be about. We definitely did undertake a significant internal staff as well as a stakeholder engagement program or process to ensure that all of the partners involved in the development of these events were engaged and on board with the proposal for 2022. In terms of the benefits or the impact of events, yes, I believe in 2019, staff had prepared a memo that highlighted the positive economic impact that particularly our larger events had on the community, but as well as indicated in the report, there are many social benefits to events. And in recent surveys and questionnaires collected through a variety of sources, residents and stakeholders and local businesses consistently pointed to events as contributing consistently and significantly to quality of life, as well as their sense of community belonging and community connectedness.
Yeah, I'd echo that. So thank you for that. And just a couple more questions through the chair. The Flood Protection Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund, on page 79. I believe Councillor McNulty already asked the question in terms of the percentage of and the impact of grant funding for those programs. So I'll just leave it with a general comment of I'm very impressed with how attentive staff has been and how focused they've been on applying for those grants and those funds because it is a significant contribution to the overall safety of Richmond. And just one more question, if I could, Your Worship, on page 136, the invasive species and pesticide report.
Oh, that's off the consent.
Oh, that's off it. Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's it.
Come back to that. Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting all the items on the consent agenda and will speak to two of the items. The number 7, the City Events Program 2022. Thank you to staff for a really thorough report that outlines the proposed 2022 City Events Program. I'm really glad that we are going ahead with the program that includes enough flexibility to plan for a mix of online and in-person engagement opportunities should health directions allow, and that will provide opportunities for individuals, community groups, artists, and local businesses to reconnect with each other and with community places and spaces. We know how much our community looks forward to these events, and this last year proved that we can deliver programs in a format that allowed the community to participate in the reimagined events in many different ways. Thank you to staff and all our community partners who participate in the planning and all the logistics for all the events, for being so resilient, creative, and passionate about seeing these popular community events happen in these challenging times. Thank you. And number 9, the Cycling Network Plan Update Proposed Phase 2 Engagement. This report presents the results of the Phase 1 engagement activities and the proposed Phase 2 engagement activities, which are intended to gain feedback from the public and stakeholders regarding the prioritization of potential cycling network improvements. There were some really great ideas that have been summarized in the report, and thanks to the members of the public and stakeholders who shared in the first phase and, brought forward their ideas and concerns. And, that's a really good summary in the report. A question to you, Your Worship, to staff. I had asked that committee that this be brought up at the next Council Board Liaison Committee for review and was informed that the next meeting happens after the Phase 2 consultation. So can you just refresh my memory? Did we decide on a way to get this out to the school district? I mean, we had some good feedback from about, I think it was 33 students ranging grades 9 to 12. And it would be great to get more ideas from youth. I think anytime we can engage youth is a really good thing, and they have often some really great ideas and imaginative ideas.
Through Your Worship to Councillor McPhail, I don't think that we'd necessarily found a way to do that exactly, but staff can certainly find a way and get that done prior to get them to participate in Phase 2.
Great. Thanks very much. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Steve.
Yeah, thanks. I support everything on the agenda, and I'm really pleased that we're going ahead with some of the major events next year. I think it's a year where we really have to cheer people up. We've had 2 years of serious contemplation of the pandemic and trying to get over it. And I think that with everybody fully vaccinated, we'll be ready to live a little bit again. But I think we can also socially distance ourselves and make sure that even the vaccinated people don't pass the viruses along. One question I have: we've covered the referral that was made to staff this time last year, I guess, about the Maritime Festival, but one item was missed out, and we gave a referral to look into inviting a tall ship of some sort for a Maritime Festival in 2022, next year, 2022. And I never heard back from staff when we were discussing this. My concern there is I think we need a substantial vessel, a tall ship, to get people out of the, quote, doldrums, which is what happens with tall ships when they sit in the water and don't move. And I'm not sure, it's probably too late for the Nippon Maru, but it might not be too late for the ship from Mexico, or the Lady Washington, or the Hawaiian Chieftain, or there's a possibility of a Chinese junk. And I'm just wondering if staff have started looking into that, or are they waiting for tonight's motion to be adopted?
Through your worship to Councillor Steeves, the proposed budget associated with the Richmond Maritime Festival for 2022 does consider the opportunity to invite a tall ship like one of those that you have mentioned. At the moment, I'm not aware if those conversations have started happening, but certainly should the program be approved, that would be part of the consideration.
Okay, what my thoughts are there is we could get literally thousands of people socially distanced all across Gary Point, out in the air, as long as they're vaccinated, and they can show their passes to get through the gate, and we can have a gun battle with the Providence, the ship that we've got, and any number of other vessels, and I think it would be quite liberating, you might say, to be able to do that. So pass that on to staff under advisement to see what you can come up with. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Someone is not muted. Who is not muted? Sorry? Jack? Is that yours? Oh. Yeah, we're still getting the echo. Just bear with us. Hello? Yeah. It's not me. Try now? Still? Is someone coming? Are you muted? Okay. Where were we? Okay. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you very much. If the audio sounds great, then I'll continue. Just a quick update. No, I don't have any questions to staff through the chair. Just a comment. I asked a lot at the past couple of committees, so I won't belabor the point, that I do support the events, and I'll just highlight the neighborhood celebration grants. I really looking forward to what the public does with those, as many neighborhoods have changed composition over this time, and I think that will be one that we watch to see the new regime of how people celebrate post lockdown periods and such. The second item, that was item number 7. Item number 8, I'll just comment briefly, the council committee meeting schedules. So I was just opposed to an aspect of the one that's come to us tonight. I will support it, but again, looking at my past experience of trying to follow municipal politics, having 2 planning meetings and trying to allocate which one to go to, if there was just one. Looking at next week's agenda, there's just a small zoning text amendment and a duplex report. I don't know if it warrants a whole separate meeting. But anyhow, I'll support it as the majority of council and members of that committee do see the value over time historically for that, so I'll leave that. Item number 9, just to clarify, some members from the public were wanting to know what is the update, but really this today gets us to that final phase of validating what we've heard, solidifying some of the comments and prioritized lists. So it's in the direction of what many people have already been asking for. So I think that's very positive. What's the direction that's taken. And item number 10. Sorry, not number 10, number 11, the mattress upholstery. Just, again, a little bit of the challenges that come with success. So I am supportive that staff have found a contractor who upholds a recycling content standard where they separate materials and do more by hand separation so that we can actually repurpose more of that material. Albeit, I'm sure many of these items are not needing to go to that stage yet, and actually could be reused. So I continue to ask staff and council to support our strategies and potential upcoming events that involve a sharing of large furniture items as opposed to just tossing them out or setting out on the curb to get wet and then no one will want them. So I think finding more strategies in the future will be essential with the circular economy direction that we're going. And that's all I'll speak to on the consent agenda. Thanks.
All right. Councillor Howe.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm going to support everything on the consent agenda, but I have questions and comments on 2 items. The first one is on item number 7, City Events Program 2022. The city used to host a number of major events in the past, and they were already popular. And as already been mentioned, due to the pandemic, we have canceled most of the events last year and this year. And I'm glad to see that we are bringing back some of the events late this summer and also planning for next year. Now, since the last GP meeting, I received some feedbacks from the public. The first is people ask questions about the farmers markets and the Farm Fest. I understand that we canceled or we do not have the Farm Fest this year at Garden City Lands, but we support the farmers markets. And staff is also, being uncertain about whether or not we should have something, some bigger events. Apart from having some community events related to food security and promotion of local food and food products. However, the public is telling me that they like to have a major event on like Farm Fest because they think that, yes, we can have the farmers market, but looking at some of these numbers of people attending is not too exciting. And also, they think, something like the Farm Fest would really highlight and celebrate the importance of farming in the history of Richmond and also in the economy. So, but my question is, at some point, will we consider having the Farm Fest or the similar type of activities back in 2022 or later?
Through your worship to Councillor Au, the report does propose including support for community events or farmers markets that do address a lot of the same goals or desired outcomes that Farm Fest did have. One of the outcomes of Farm Fest was having a celebration on Garden City lands, and I do understand that logistically that would be challenging for 2022. There may be further input from our parks team on that specifically, but certainly I think the event program would be happy to take any direction in terms of expanding the reach of events that do celebrate our agricultural history and food security and supporting local farmers and all of those types of goals.
Okay. I just want to add that probably, people would like to have a major event rather than, having smaller community events spreading out. And I can understand that because, if we have a bigger event, people can come all together at one place at one time, and we can also draw on a larger crowd. So I think, and I don't think we need to do it on Garden City lands. It could be any place or, in other formats. But I also agree with them that the farmers market cannot replace an event that really highlight the importance of farming in the city, because farm markets, some people just see as a chance to buy some things from the local farmers, but they don't see the operation of the farms, those farm machines and all kinds of activities. Now, I also noticed that in terms of the budget for the farmers market, so it is increased from $20,000 to $30,000 next year. So how is that additional $10,000 be allocated and used?
Through your worship to Councillor Al, the additional funds were included to provide opportunities for local event organizers like, for example, the Sharing Farm, who has put on Garlic Fest in years prior to the pandemic, to potentially support groups like that in being able to deliver events sort of during or post-pandemic, depending on where we are this year, in ways that they may not be able to do so if there wasn't that city support.
Okay, very good, thank you. And the other thing people noticed is the missing of the World Festival. And of course, we explained to the public that we are going to explore the possibility of something made in Richmond to celebrate our diversity and the richness of our cultural heritage. So I think this is going to be welcomed by the people. I understand that the World Festival has been very successful, but it also creates some problem of its own. Money, the budget, and also the noise, created for the neighborhood. So I think it's good that we can find something to achieve the same objectives while it's more manageable. And the other item I want to comment on is the cycling network plan update, item number 9. I'm glad that we have conducted the consultation and with the results. And basically, I think we got lots of feedback from the public, and in a sense, there's no surprises. And we can see that people are very concerned about the safety and also the connectivity of those bike routes. And I understand that this would be the objective of the second phase consultation, which is to prioritize, because of so many ideas, so many things being mentioned. I think we need to prioritize the different suggestions. My question is, now on CNCL 62, staff mentioned that we would have, the online survey, and also we would have separate stakeholder sessions. Will the school district be one of the partners that we would consult with in terms of setting the second stage priorities?
Through your worship to Councillor Au, I don't know that we were planning to include the scooters as part of that, but given that it's a trial, we are certainly looking at how they fit into the architecture overall in the future, and certainly once we've completed the first year of the trial, we'll know much more about how it fits in and what kind of education or things we need to do with it.
Because I think perhaps, that they are also an important partner in terms of safety, education, and also the connectivity, accessibility of the routes and paths, such as, around schools. So I think I would suggest that if possible, we should include them as a partner to be consulted. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I too will be supporting everything on tonight's consent agenda. Just want to make a couple comments. Number 7, the city events. Everyone else has made a lot of comments about it, and I'm excited too about a number of the events coming up. And I'd really like to thank city staff and our community volunteers who've come together. They've been working really hard to get us back together in just having fun together, celebrating our art, celebrating our heritage, and being together as a community. I think this is a great opportunity. I love how Steveston Community Society has come up with a 2-week plan so that we don't have a big crowd coming into Steveston all at one time. People can pick and choose what makes sense for them, for their family, what strikes a chord for them. And, you know, I think the key is we want to stay safe and we still want to come together as a community. So walking that fine line is going to be what we're looking for 2022. And when we move forward from there, then maybe we'll have something, you know, huge brouhaha like we used to have over the salmon bakes and rides and everything else. But until then, I really like what I'm seeing here. And I'd also like to talk about item number 9, the cycling network plan update. I really encourage everyone to, especially the students, to sign up on letstalkrichmond.ca. This is your opportunity to give your voice to what's important to you for cycling connectivity, for getting you to school, getting you to your jobs, getting you to your community events that you want to go to. So sign up on letstalkrichmond.ca. You'll have a persona, you'll be able to answer this particular survey that'll be coming forward, and you'll also be consulted on other public consultations. So this is your chance to get your voice out there. I think it's really important for us to be building the right kind of city infrastructure so that kids can get to school, they get used to riding their bikes. When you get used to riding your bike to school, you're going to be more comfortable riding it to work as an adult. You're going to be more comfortable to keep riding. So if we can make it safe, make you comfortable, make your parents happy for the cycling routes that you'll be taking to school, then I think we're really building a foundation for future life. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda as well. A lot has been said about the city events program, which is item number 7, but post-pandemic, this was the major events program, and it took us into the millions. So back in about 2016, we actually scaled it down because the festivals were getting of such a major size that they became unmanageable. So I was really pleased to be part of the scaling down of that original major events program that we had. I feel that the events that we're hosting in the past and now after COVID are more budget friendly, and what's really cool about them is they really focus on the neighborhoods and they involve the neighborhoods, and they're so much more engaging instead of just walking around, you know, something like the World Festival with a lot of food trucks. So I think we're going in the right direction with or without COVID. Number 8 is the council committee. This is really great because it will allow councillors to attend the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Conference and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And this allows us to network with councillors and mayors from other cities, not only around BC, but across Canada. So I'm glad the schedule has been implemented to allow us to be able to do that. Number 9, a lot has been said about the cycling network. I did have a question of staff on this one. If we look at the maps on page 64, 65, and 66, it shows a disconnect on the north end of Shell Road. And I've heard from a number of people that we really need to connect that artery. Can you tell us where this is going to take us to get in that direction?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, this will absolutely move us towards that direction. It will put that piece of infrastructure in priority with all the other competing pieces of infrastructure in the city that other people may also think is important. So we'll find out which ones are the most important and try and get those done first.
So the important thing, as Councillor Liu pointed out, is to fill in those surveys. Vote for your area that you want to see developed. Thank you. And then number 10 is the traffic signal system. This is $7.6 million, and this is your taxpayers at work to upgrade our traffic signals. Number 11 is the mattress and upholstered furniture. You know, we've done a great job, our staff have done an amazing job down at the workshop. And I had a quick question to staff. This has been an incredibly successful program, averting a lot of mattresses and furniture from the dump, and not only not taking it to the dump, but recycling those materials. And I understand there's been some cost savings of that not going to the landfill, and there's also been some cost savings when it comes to the recycled materials. Can you speak to that, please?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, for every ton of material that we do divert from disposal to recycling, we save about $115 per ton of disposal. So if you look at the 520 tons, that's about 50 to 60,000 annually that we save, as opposed to if we would take that to the landfill.
That's fabulous. The recycled materials that come out of the upholstered furniture and mattresses, do we get any revenue from that, or is it just doing the right thing?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, we don't receive a revenue. In fact, we do have to pay for those materials to be handled, but we do know that they are getting reused, upcycled, and recycled as opposed to disposed. So there's a lot of value in that from a circular economy aspect.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. Number 12 is the grant-funded flood protection. So this is a lot of money, but we managed to get, the staff have done a great job getting grants. So we've got $16.63 million in provincial funding and $13.78 million in Infrastructure Canada funding. And these endorsed directives today will allow us to make submissions for funding up to $38 million from the Disaster and Mitigation Adaptation Fund. So keep up the good work, and that's it for me. Thank you very much, Mayor Brody.
All right. With that, we'll call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. We have one item that's been taken off the consent agenda. I'll go to the Chair of Public Works and Transportation Committee, Councillor Au, to introduce it.
Let me see. Yes, it's on the pesticide reduction and invasive species management 2021 update, and there's a staff recommendation. So I would move that that key achievements related to the city's enhancement pesticide management program and invasive species action plan, as outlined in the staff report titled Pesticide Reduction and Invasive Species Management 2021 Update, dated September 22nd, 2021, from the Director of Sustainability and District Energy, be received for information. And 2, the staff be directed to write letters to the Federal Minister of Environment and Climate Change and the Provincial Ministry of Environment, requesting that a review of the existing policies that allow for the importation of and sale of invasive species be conducted. And 3, that staff examine staff resources in this area to be proposed for the upcoming budgetary process. So I move.
Is it seconded? Someone seconded? Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Did you wish to discuss it?
Yes, Your Worship. I think this is a very important report and also very informative. And as people know, the city in 2009 adopted the pesticide use control bylaw number 8514. And also in 2015, the city adopted its invasive species action plan. And these are very important steps taken by the city in terms of environmental protection and also control of the invasive species. And the report highlights many of the achievements that we have already made. And since the city adopted its bylaw against the use of pesticide in 2029, we have received lots of positive feedback, and also many local municipalities have adopted similar bylaws and programs for the restriction of domestic use of pesticides. And also for our control for invasive species, We adopt the action plan in 2015. The objectives is to develop strategic goals and to prioritize the management of these species that pose threats to community safety. We know that in the city, there are about 2,000 species which are dangerous, and of them, 8 are particularly problematic. And staff mentioned in the report that of the 8 priority species, 2 of them are very persistent aquatic species, which is the parrot's feather and Basilian eludia. And since this is a very complicated issue in terms of trying to stop the sale and importation of these species, staff recommended that we should be writing letters to the appropriate federal and provincial regulators, highlighting the need for that kind of change. And I also want to mention that the report is very informative. And among all the things being reported, I'm so delighted that we have not only been the leader in many of the initiatives, but we have achieved a very high number of public outreach and engagement activities. As being reported by the staff, we have over 1,000 residents engaged in those environmental workshops. So I think this is a big encouragement to all of us. So with that, I would ask for the support of the recommendation.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. So the City of Richmond is mandated to deal with invasive species by the Provincial Weed Control Act and the Federal Plant Protection Act. But I had a question of staff, because of all of the letters we get, the one I have to get the most is the European Schaefer beetles that are ripping up everyone's lawns. And according to page 142 of the report, there's been management trials and about alternative lawn species composition. And I honestly get more questions about the Schaefer beetles than anything else. How are we coming with that, and what can we offer the public who are literally at their wits' end dealing with these destroyed lawns?
Sure. Through your worship to Councillor Day, the Schaefer beetle has a complex life cycle. We see an uptick right now as the grubs start developing in the soil and they start eating what are traditional lawn species. And that's when really you get the skunk and the raccoons active on people's lawns. Really what we offer them is expert opinions and advice and education. Really the most common mistake is replanting that with a species that is a food source for those. So we really try to educate people on the types of species and lawn cover that is appropriate to really manage Schaefer beetles at this stage.
So is there one particular lawn cover alternative that you can suggest?
There are a few, through your worship to Councillor Day, there are a few different lawn covers. We have several plots at the Terra Nova Park on display during the summer and spring months that showcase them. Some are clover, some are the traditional grass species like the fescues, but really it's based on preference. So we typically try to work with the landowner at the staff level and see what the preference is on what type of cover that they would like.
Perfect. And I'm really happy to support number 3, which is staff examining staffing resources in this area, because we need people on the ground to answer those questions from the public. So thank you very much for your report. It's very informative.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 questions to staff and then a few comments on this item. So the first question is, in our report package, Council 136, in 136, page 136, at the very bottom, the last paragraph talks about funding obtained from Council for the last 4 years of this work. And it mentions that we received a grant for $225,000. My question is, so that, it says offset some of the funding. So did that, what it offset, did that go into general spending, or where did that go? Did we add that on top so we could do even more in this department?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, that was a specific provincial fund that was set aside into a capital funding project that was specifically mandated for the management of Brazilian lota out in Mariners Village Pond. And that's only what it is being used for over the past 3 years at this time.
Oh, okay. Thank you, through your worship. I have no follow-up on that. But my second question, since this item was brought up at Public Works, and I made the amendment to add the third clause, there was some opposition. I see the two councillors are going to speak next. I think it was just to that part coming up. But since that meeting, we received a memo from the Director of Sustainability. You probably all received it with your package. My question is to clarify what that actually says. I'm a little bit, with the language, a little unfamiliar. So does it mean that if we pass this tonight, there will be funding granted, as it refers to here, as only additional levels that are allowed to bypass the assessment, or if they're supported by council's resolution? So is that what we have tonight before us?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, given that council has not already approved the position included in the budget per the memo, an additional, a council resolution is needed to direct staff to bring the request forward for the additional service or additional levels evaluation process. So that process would be undertaken and come forward for council consideration as part of the budget process.
Sorry, thank you, to your worship, to staff. Can I just get a clarification on that? Is what's written tonight, is that provided, or is there other language that needs to be in that?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the recommendation, as I read it and understand it, given the update from the memo, would mean that it would be considered as part of the budget process, and staff will have to assess that against other priorities, and therefore make a recommendation as part of the budget process.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, your worship. My final comments on this item, I would really ask council to support this, and here's just a couple reasons that make it so obvious that we need this now with the additional staff and resources sooner than later. A Metro Vancouver study was just published that looked at 27,000 children in our area in Metro Vancouver. And those who live near green spaces, natural areas, achieve better results in many categories, from emotional maturity to language skills, and they have less stress, less sleep disturbances, less central nervous system damage, and they're attributing this to the decrease in exposure to air and noise pollution. I bring this up because invasive species, if they're removed in such a way or managed too slowly, natural areas or green spaces end up being removed because all of the plant structure in the soil gets removed in one large excavation project, and none of the natural elements remain, and then we end up putting in our planted trees in less quality soil, and we don't get big things anymore. So we really need to address invasive species, and I think having more staff can help us get on that. Looking at the report, so not just the staff report, but the update that was attached to it, if you look through it, I'll just highlight 3 short things in there. One is it talks about the 8 priority species, but there's a whole other appendix at the back that talks about the moderate risk invasive species. And yes, I agree, blackberry to hogweed. Obviously, hogweed, you can go blind from it, you get permanent burns on your skin, and blackberry, you can eat it. But blackberry is the one that's wrecking more of our natural area than any other species. And so it needs to be identified with a priority plan, not just left on the list of other invasives. It needs to get its other plan. I think more staff in this area can help to do that. Another item it mentions on page 145, work with rabbits. And I know it's not all on the city. We need more work from the province. We need to advocate for more of their funding and the resources that they just have spoken about hiring 200 more in the province. We need more of them. And in our update here, it doesn't mention the success that staff have had working in areas like Dover Park, but there's many other areas that we need continued effort from staff. And finally, the last one, we have a Richmond Ecological Network Management Strategy, and number one goal is manage and enhance our ecological assets, and in there it says we have to enhance them over time. If we don't prevent the invasive species from getting into the last of these areas, then forget about it. There's nothing to enhance. We have to start with a genetically populated variety growing in a greenhouse somewhere, but we have natural capital that we need to protect, and only on-the-ground city staff, not contractors who don't live and work here regularly. We need our city staff to help train others and help train our public that all work against invasive species, not just these priority 8. There's far more. So I really appreciated getting this far, and I hope we can have a budget item that hires more biodiversity protectors on staff. Thank you.
Just before we go to the next speaker, I'm going to read out the memo that came from staff on this subject of staffing levels. As the assessment of the management group within the department does not meet the test needed to support submitting an additional levels budget request, this position would not be approved through the senior staff process. The only additional level requests that are allowed to bypass the assessment starting in Q2 are items which are supported by a council resolution which directs staff to bring the matter forward to additional levels evaluation process, or which council have already approved to be included in the budget. So what that is saying is that staff which puts the additional positions through a process would not approve it, and it would not go forward. So I think we need to keep that in mind when we're discussing the staffing matter. I'll go to Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did not support number 3 of the recommendation at committee, so I'd like that split out when the vote comes. And when this came up during the discussion at committee, staff said they would not be putting in for an additional staff in the 2022 budget cycle, and that when the invasive species strategy was reviewed in the near future, staffing would be looked at. So when I read number 3, I find it vague. There's no direction as to what the staff position or description of it would be. I don't know what this is asking for. Staff examine staffing resources. What does that actually mean? So I can't support it at this time. I support 1 and 2. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too support 1 and 2. I was going to ask for number 3 to be split out as well. I know we have competent staff working on this file. I know that there's a lot of work that happens, a lot of volunteers come out for this, and I know we've had some weird stuff like that Brazilian Elodia that was accidentally, if you will, put into the ecosystem that shouldn't have been. And possibly something like this will happen again, and I think we have to deal with that as it comes, but I'm not sure at this point that we start, hiring just in case. I think there's lots of great things that we want to have in our city, lots of things that we want to spend our money on. I know that we're going to have a rigorous budget process this year, and I suspect that an extra full-time person in this one wouldn't be supported anyway, and so I don't think for staff to try and go to the extra effort of writing up this proposal and figuring that out, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we have a really challenging budget ahead of us coming into 2022. I think we've got a lot of big expenses that are happening. I think we've had a lot of stuff happening with COVID and everything else, and I think and now's not the time to start hiring extra people off after just reading our enhanced pesticide management program and not actually giving it a deeper thought than that. Thank you.
On this number 3, where it talks about extra staffing, I think that staff have to be given real credit. In the city of Richmond, since I've been involved, they have been very vigilant about adding positions. The easiest thing to do, and it of course ends up in a bigger budget, the easiest thing to do is to say, gee, we should be doing this, we should be doing more on that, let's add another position. And in fact, staff are very disciplined about it because, and it pertains to what I read out from the staff memo. They have to, if you want an extra position in this organization, you have to go to a staff group and submit that and get their approval for it to carry on. And what this memo is saying from the Director of Sustainability and District Energy is that it would not meet that test. Just because we want to do something, just because we should do something, doesn't mean that we necessarily need more staff. Maybe what we need to do is to redirect the staff that we have. Maybe there are ways to organize it. Maybe there are, because one of the first things that staff does every year when they go into the budget process, or on a departmental level or the whole organization, they say, what do we do that we don't need to do? And so there are ways to achieve the same strategic goal very often without adding bodies. Just, the empire gets bigger and bigger and bigger just because people have a favorite area and they say we should add more people to it. And so I think that what is proposed here is without any analysis whatsoever. Just because someone likes something and wants to emphasize it does not mean that we need extra bodies for it. So I am definitely not going to be supporting number 3 when staff is saying that they can't justify adding to the staffing levels in this particular area, though I will support 1 and 2. And with that, I'm going to call the question first of all, on 1 and 2. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so that's carried. So I'm calling the question on the staffing level number 3. All those in favor? Okay, those opposed? I see Councillors Liu, the Mayor, McPhail, Au, Hobbs, and McNulty opposed. So it is defeated. Now, Councillor Day, I see your hand is up. Okay. So that finishes our consent and the non-consent agenda. The public delegation has been withdrawn. So it brings me to public announcements. And I have a few to make today. The first one is to announce what happened in part at the closed meeting this afternoon. There's been a lot of discussion and media attention to the vaccination policy. And what City Council has decided is that we will implement a COVID-19 vaccination policy for staff. Effective December 20th of this year, all city staff will be required to be fully vaccinated, including council members. And I can tell you that all the council members have indicated that they have in fact been fully vaccinated. Now, under the policy, all employees will be required to provide proof of vaccination. And if that proof is not presented by the effective date, then the employee will, it's not a termination, they will be put on unpaid leave. In addition, the proof of vaccination will also be required for participation in all programs and services at the Minneru Senior Center, which has been a particular item of conversation, and the exception to that is the takeout food services. So a comprehensive communication plan for staff and the public will be implemented, and more information will be issued in the very near future. Then also coming from closed council this afternoon, we have some appointments. All of these are effective until December 31st, 2023. Lynn Kemper has been reappointed to the Richmond Food Security and Agricultural Advisory Committee as a large-scale farming representative from the agricultural community. And the following individuals were also appointed as the small-scale farming representatives from the general agricultural community: Alan Rose and Miles Smart. One other appointment. Gary Abrams was appointed to the Vancouver International Airport Aeronautical Noise Management Committee, also for the 2-year term. And we are announcing that we are naming a road in the city center, the name Constable, which is CST. Constable Thomas Agar Road was selected for the proposed new road connecting number 3 Road to Carscallon Road in Capstan Village in the city center. Then, of course, Halloween is on our mind, and it's again here. And while we postponed our public fireworks display again due to the pandemic, there are still many safe, family-friendly events for all ages throughout the city. These include a family-friendly movie at the City Center Community Center, science fun for all ages at the Hamilton Community Center, the pumpkin painting for adults at the South Arm Community Center, and Halloween skates at Mineru Arenas. So if you want to get a full list of the Halloween activities, go to richmond.ca/Halloween. Remember to stay safe, wear highly visible clothing, maintain social distancing, and please be extra careful on the streets. Another reminder in connection with Halloween is that it's illegal to possess, buy, sell, distribute, or detonate fireworks and firecrackers in Richmond. These strict regulations are in place to keep people safe. Fines for firework violations are in effect. Next, we go to Remembrance Day. It's a couple weeks away, but start thinking about it because we will again mark Remembrance Day with a live stream ceremony from City Hall on November 11th, starting at 10:40. In keeping with public health protocols, this year's ceremony will only be open to invited guests. The public is invited to join the online services to honor the men and women who gave their lives to serve and protect Canada this Remembrance Day. So look for the details on the city website. It'll be on the website very soon. But unfortunately, we still are not able to hold the big event by the cenotaph, but I think it was very well received and highly looked at by the residents last year, the way we did it. Then we have the Fraud and Cons Prevention Workshop. Avoiding common cons, scams, fraud calls, and financial abuse is important, especially for seniors and those more vulnerable to such abuse. The city and the RCMP are holding a free Fraud and Cons Prevention Workshop for residents age 55 plus at South Arm Community Center on Wednesday, November 3rd at 11 o'clock in the morning. Registration is required, and details again are on the city website. And finally, we have the 55 plus activities guide. Finally, the November and December edition of the 55 plus program guide is now available. It features offers over 100 in-person and online registered activities. The guide is available for collection at community centers, or you can go online to richmond.ca/register to get a copy. Now, we have a couple of hands in the air. Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to say that the Friends of the Richmond Public Library will be having their final sidewalk sale for 2021 coming Saturday, October the 30th, weather permitting. Unfortunately, their last sale 2 weeks ago had to be canceled due to the weather. It'll be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. outside of the Canby-Lambert Library Branch, number 5 and Canby Road. Prices range from 50 cents to just a few dollars, and I've been told there are some books in pristine condition. So if you're looking for Christmas gifts, a wonderful opportunity to gather some winter reading while supporting your Richmond Public Library. Thank you.
So that's this coming Saturday.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor McNulty.
Hey, Worship, you mentioned Remembrance Day. Just to announce on behalf of the Royal Canadian Legion and the Anavets and Steveston that the poppy sales will begin this Friday, the 29th. Sales will be available in support of the vets and our peacekeepers. Please wear a poppy. They'll be available in the Ironwood Mall outside the liquor store for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but they will be available as well in various institutions within the city. So kindly make a donation. Money goes to a tremendous cause, and please wear a poppy. Even in these tough times, wear a poppy, and let's continue to remember those that sacrificed for us to give us our freedom, lest we forget.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are two bylaws for final adoption. The first has noted opposition and the second does not.
Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. With Councillor Wolf opposed. Development Permit Panel.
Thank you. There are two recommendations. The first is that the Chair's report for the Development Permit Panel meeting held on September 29th be received for information. And recommendation number two, that the recommendation of the panel to authorize the issuance of a development variance permit for the property at 5300 Number 3 Road be endorsed and the permit so issued, and concurrence be granted by Richmond City Council to the proposed building-mounted telecommunication installation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Someone move adjournment? All right, we're now adjourned. Thank you.